Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lloyd Lewis, and I'm the board chair for the Atlantis Foundation. Thanks to all of you for joining us on this very special day. The Atlantis Foundation is a 30-year nonprofit dedicated to the creation and management of housing for people with disabilities in Colorado. The foundation currently owns 100 apartments in 6 separate complexes and is fully committed to serving the disabled population of Colorado. Today, we are celebrating the opening of our new Atlantis apartments, the new offices of Atlantis Communities, Inc., or ACI, and the Disability Rights History Museum. Look at how beautiful this magnificent building is. We are so proud. We are so proud. Woo-woo! This new facility will provide accessible and affordable housing to 60 residents, many of whom have a disability. Thank you, Don. And includes a community center. ACI's Center for Independent Living offices will be on the first floor and is an important and vital resource for people with disabilities. I want to acknowledge the great work of ACI and their very important role in the history of civil rights in Colorado and across the country. And I want to do a special shout out to Candy Burnham, the CEO for ACI, who you will hear from later in our program. Candy, thanks for your great work you and ACI do. Round of applause. Round of applause. The first floor of the facility will also house ACI's Disability Rights Museum to highlight the history of ACI and ADAPT, along with examples of their activist work and the history of ADAPT. To have a residential facility like this is a game changer. People with disabilities thrive when they are given the opportunity to experience independence and self-reliance and are supported by a community that truly cares. This new facility will help so many people and so many families. The work done by our organizations is truly life-changing. It is important that every human being, regardless of ability, be given every opportunity to live the life they choose. People with disabilities contribute a great deal to our community, and facilities like this help make that happen. A big thank you to my fellow Atlantis Foundation board members, Don Carver, Vice Chair, Bruce Stallman, Treasurer, Susan Einer, Secretary, board members Mark Wilson and Robin Glassner, who have donated literally hundreds of volunteer hours, and a very special shout out to Pat Coyle, the Director for the Atlantis Foundation, who has done an amazing job on this project, and will do so again and again and again and again on many future projects. No pressure, Pat. Yeah. Thanks to our development team, Ken Hoagland, Mary Andrews, and Michelle Tanti, the Ration architectural firm, Joe Poley and Eric Donner, the Pinkard construction team, Tony Clark, Troy Bolender, Dan Scott, Zach Wetzel, and Adam Mossberg. I want to also recognize the support of the Baker Historic Neighborhood Association, Ozzie Friedrich and Steve Harley. And thanks to the following investment organizations for investing in us: Wells Fargo, Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, Colorado Division of Housing, Denver's Department of Housing Stability, Federal Home Loan Bank, and so many others here with us today. It is now my privilege to ask some very special guests and supporters to say a few words. Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera is a longtime friend of the Atlantis community and a leading advocate for people with disabilities. She has spent decades fighting for every Coloradan's access to quality, affordable health care. Before becoming Lieutenant Governor, she served as a state legislator and the CEO of the Komen Foundation Colorado chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Colorado, Diane Primavera.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Lloyd. It's my great pleasure to be here to celebrate with you all today. As he said, I am the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Colorado. But my history with the disability community goes back to when I was 16, and I first volunteered at Wheat Ridge State Home and Training School with people with developmental disabilities, helping them to eat and bathe and dress. And then I went on to become a vocational rehabilitation counselor, working with people with disabilities. And then finally, I was a training coordinator at the Rocky Mountain Regional Brain Injury Center, and I trained a whole variety of people about brain injury. So I know the firsthand the zigs and zags that a career can take over 45 years, as well as how much the disability services landscape has changed for the better over the last several decades. This building behind us represents a well of opportunity for affordable housing in an incredible location. Housing that is pre-engineered for accessibility, something that was unheard of 45 years ago. Yes, Dawn, you're right. So this is an opportunity for people with and without disabilities, as well as from various income levels, to be integrated. The building that once stood here also represented opportunity, and though that building is being replaced, I know its promise and mission will endure with Atlantis Community Independent Living Center, which is being housed on the first floor of this new building. Successful independent living programs and supports require support for many people with disabilities. It's no easy feat and requires robust and comprehensive commitment and intention from local and state officials, stakeholders, and advocates. Having the second oldest independent living center in the country, right here in Denver, speaks to that commitment. Yay, Atlantis. And it's a big reason why Colorado has led the nation in many aspects of disability rights for decades. We should all be proud of that legacy, especially those of you who are here today who have helped create it. And I think Dawn and Josh are a couple of those people right over there. The Atlantis community has helped thousands of people with disabilities over the last 4.5 decades by providing a wide range of support services. Everything from the big life changes, like transitioning out of nursing homes, to the small but important practical necessities, like properly reporting wages to Social Security after getting a first job. These modern offices will allow them to continue this really important work. The disability community has long recognized that housing is a critical social influencer of health. Having affordable housing located alongside an independent living center that helps both residents and others in the community access Social Security, food assistance, Medicaid, employment, transportation, and other services helps boost their independence and improves the overall health and well-being of the community. And really exciting, in addition, the Disability History Museum on the first floor provides an incredible opportunity to teach people the history of the disability rights movement and its roots in Colorado. The walls of the building that this once replaces were lined with hundreds of newspaper articles about the Atlantis community and Atlantis Adapt's work, both here and around the country. And I was happy to hear that this material and more will be included in the Disability History Museum. Continuing the work of the Atlantis community, housing more than 60 people in affordable and accessible apartments, and showcasing the rich Colorado disability rights history in this fantastic location near public transportation in the heart of Denver's Baker neighborhood is a true representation of maximizing opportunity. Projects that are thoughtful and comprehensive do not happen by accident. When you combine good people, including the Atlantis Foundation Board of Directors, chaired by Lloyd Lewis, and Foundation Director and Mastermind behind this mixed-use property, Pat Coyle, incredible things happen. Hats off to the two of you. Pat worked for many years in his former roles as the Colorado Division of Housing Director and Department of Local Affairs Deputy Director to improve affordable housing options in Colorado, especially for people with disabilities. Thankfully for our administration, longtime Colorado Division of Housing employee Allison George has remained in the role of director since Pat Coyle left the position and has continued the important work of the agency. Allison was instrumental in creating and overseeing the innovative Colorado State Housing vouchers used by people transitioning out of nursing homes and other institutions. These vouchers were funded by the savings that result from serving people in the community instead of in institutions, a groundbreaking and an innovative idea.
Everybody needs to clap.
I heard Allison is pretty good under pressure too, even when a couple hundred ADAPT members flood her office because more people wanted to transition out of nursing homes than the state had housing vouchers for. I'm happy to see Department of Local Affairs Director Rick Garcia here as well. I don't know where you are, Rick. There you are, Rick. Rick has been a key member of the Governor's Cabinet on our COVID-19 response and has continued the efforts to improve access to affordable housing throughout the state. The Department of Housing is located in the Department of Local Affairs, so I would also like to thank Rick for supporting Allison and the Department of Housing. So thank you, Rick, for joining us and all of your hard work and leadership. So today is an exciting day for all of us. It's especially exciting for the people who will live in this amazing building, the people who will receive independent living services from the Atlantis community, and the people who will learn about the history of the disability rights movement that has its roots here in Denver and in the museum. So thank you all for inviting me here today. I'm so excited to share this momentous occasion with you, and thanks to each of you for your hard work in helping us get here today. Thank you.
Let's give the Lieutenant Governor another round of applause. Rick Garcia is the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, as the LG said, and serves in the Governor's Cabinet. As the Executive Director, he oversees affordable housing efforts for the state. He has a long history of public service at all three levels of government, elected to Denver City Council in 2003, and in 2010 was appointed President Obama's Regional Housing and Urban Development Director. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Garcia.
Thank you, Lloyd, and Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your generous comments as well. These folks have already been acknowledged, but I need to do it again. We have our State Division of Housing Director, Allison George, here. Also on her team, her newest Policy Director, Andrea Paredes, is also with us. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Pat Coyle. Pat and I go back a great number of years. I'm not going to tell you how many. Pat's got a few more gray hairs than I do, but I'm working on it. Pat certainly has been an instrumental leader, as the Lieutenant Governor indicated, in the affordable housing front. In fact, he's a Eagle Award winner, which is a very prestigious award that the Housing Colorado Now organization awards each year to a strong leader in the affordable housing front. Pat won that a few years ago. So Pat, thanks for the invitation to be here today, and it's been a great pleasure being a friend of yours all these years. Let me just mention a few points that the Lieutenant Governor hasn't already mentioned. She did cover the landscape quite well. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. But I want to acknowledge the leadership of the Atlantis Communities Incorporated. This was indicated earlier by Lloyd. 45 years of advocacy, education, in transitioning people out of nursing homes into independent living so they can become meaningful parts of an integrated community of their choice. That is a significant mission, and one that I think deserves some applause. Let's give that. And today, the Atlantis Community Foundation opens another apartment facility intended to continue to house persons with disability and also non-disabled individuals. Thank you. So a little bit about the Division of Housing. Some of you may know these things, but let me just remind you that the Division of Housing works with local communities and local governments to provide housing opportunities for all Coloradans that face the greatest challenges of accessing affordable housing and safe and secure homes. The Division of Housing also provides state and federal funding to private housing developers, housing authorities, and nonprofits, and also local governments. In doing so, the Division of Housing provides funding for new construction, acquisition and rehabilitation projects, as well as rental assistance for individuals that we have prioritized for people with disabilities. In fact, more than 80% of all our housing vouchers that we administer now through the Division of Housing, whether state or federally funded, serve people with disabilities. Is that impressive? Also, a number of years ago, the state of Colorado reacted to the Supreme Court's decision in the Olmsted landmark decision. The state adopted a community living plan in 2014. This plan represents the state's commitment to ensuring people with disabilities have the same rights as others to live in the home of their choice and supports the services they need to live independently. DOLA and the Division of Housing partners with the Department of Human Services and the Department of Healthcare, Policy and Finance, two critical state agencies that support this population, in providing state and federal housing vouchers, as well as Section 811 project rental assistance. That's a federal program which supports people with disabilities leaving nursing homes, state mental health institutions, and other institutional settings. Atlantis has been a strong partner with DOH for more than 20 years, advocating for greater access to housing for people with disabilities who want to live independently. Atlantis administers about 350 of DOH housing choice vouchers currently, and 200 of those vouchers help people move out of institutions or avoid being placed in an institution. Great work. Recently, I'm happy to mention that we're excited that we have appointed Anaya Robinson, who is the Associate Director of Atlantis, as a member of our newly launched Strategic Housing Working Group. He will contribute and bring a perspective to this group on the housing needs and housing solutions for people with disabilities. Now, the project itself, I think Lloyd had indicated, but let me just touch on those. Atlantis will provide 60 affordable 1- and 2-bedroom rental units in this historic Baker neighborhood. DOH's involvement has been key from the beginning, and we're supporting 10% of these units are fully accessible for persons with mobility impairments. All other remaining units have been designed for adaptability to fully accessible standards. The project also through DOH has received $600,000 grant and also a loan of over $1.1 million and Section 811 project-based rental assistance from the Division of Housing. Section 811 units are designed specifically to serve non-elderly disabled individuals with a priority for those living in institutions that need a place to live. We're also proud to be partners with the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. They provided historic low-income housing tax credits for this project, and also our friends at the City of Denver at the host office, which you'll be hearing from Bretta Fisher shortly. Let me conclude by saying congratulations again to Lloyd, the board of directors, to the staff, Pat Coyle in particular, for producing this wonderful, wonderful facility in the heart of the city and county of Denver. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you.
Bretta Fisher was appointed by Mayor Hancock to direct this Denver Department of Housing and Stability in 2017. She oversees all of the city's affordable housing policy, activities, and investments. Until last year, she served as chair of the Colorado State Housing Board. Before working for the city, she was and still is one of the most effective advocates for affordable housing in Denver. Bretta Fisher?
Thanks for that introduction, Lloyd. And thanks for having me here today. I'm here on behalf of Mayor Michael B. Hancock, who unfortunately had a scheduling change and wasn't able to be here today. But I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate this first phase of Atlantis' affordable apartments at this site. And what a site! When we talk about choice, we have transportation right here on Cherokee with an RTD bus service, and we have mass transit linkages here in this neighborhood. And just by looking at all the construction projects around here, this is a place that many people are choosing to be, choosing to invest, and choosing to build. And so it's exciting to be here with connecting Atlantis residents to employment opportunities, education, shopping, and amenities. Our Department of Housing Stability, or HOST, is pleased to play a role in supporting the Atlantis apartments. The city has a history of supporting other Atlantis projects, and today's opening was made in Thank you. Today's opening was made possible in part with our Denver Gap financing of $800,000 in this project. We are pleased to be a part of this phase, but we're also pleased that we've also committed to the second phase of this project, another more than $2 million to see phase 2 realized. Projects like the Atlantis apartments bring to light the importance of inclusivity and of housing an inclusive Denver. And there's a need, an incredible need, to help house special populations, including people with disabilities. And that means providing income-restricted housing that looks and feels no different than market rate projects. And this meets the bill. These 60 new apartments seamlessly are in this community, and you cannot distinguish them from others. And I think that's a testament to everybody who's been a part of this project and making sure that we are building quality, affordable housing here in Denver. A couple of things that I just wanted to take a personal note on. One, this world gets smaller the longer that I'm in Denver, and I've been here now for more than 20 years. And there is a person in the affordable housing world and public service realm. His name is Tony Hernandez, and his son Eric produces a television show for PBS. And so the lieutenant governor was talking about the museum here, which is great. And another museum, History Colorado, has taken the time to tell the story of the Gang of 19 and of our disability rights history here in Denver, Colorado, and what led to the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so I'm just so pleased to be a part of this project, to see this art carved in stone here that depicts the Gang of 19. I'm so pleased that we have so many connections in our community. And for those of you who don't know me as well, I came from an advocacy nonprofit background here in Denver. And so I just want to acknowledge Ken Hoagland, who's here in the crowd, who's been in the advocacy trenches with me many a day. So good to be here with you, Ken. And then just what a great honor I have to be around such great public servants who have also come from those roots. As the lieutenant governor spoke to her history of helping to care for people in our community. You know, people like Rick Garcia, Pat Coyle, Allison George, all are people who care for our community and are now in positions where they have had the ability to influence policy and investments like the one that we have today. So good to be in it with these fellow public servants as well. As we look at these Atlantis apartments, it's just the latest in a series of housing investments that Denver is making. And I just want to pause and make sure that you all know what other things are coming today, beyond today. Today is a great day to celebrate, but we also want to celebrate that there are another 1,593 city-funded affordable homes currently under construction. And there are an additional 1,087 affordable homes across 20 different locations that are anticipated to begin construction within the next year. That's more than 2,600 Denver households with affordable, attainable housing on the way. And I want to acknowledge my team, the whole Department of Housing Stability, the big housing team. We have Derek Woodbury and Nick Emmenheiser here today who are working in the trenches because we've been doing all of this in a pandemic. We are sitting here with masks on. We are still pushing forward boldly to reach our housing goals, even as there are many challenges surrounding us. So I want to just say hats off to everyone here. Hats off to our partners for keeping the important construction going during this public health emergency, and to thank Atlantis Community Partners, CHAFA, and the Colorado Division of Housing for their investment. This just shows the solid foundation that housing can provide in our community, and we just want to keep this up. So thank you all for what you're doing, and thank you for a great day to celebrate Atlantis community.
Scott Horton is the Relations Manager for Wells Fargo Bank. He's been directly involved in the construction financing of the Atlantis apartments. They are our construction lender and tax credit investor. They are a tremendous asset to Colorado's affordable housing industry. A project like this requires tens of millions of dollars. So Scott, you're one of our favorite people. Where is Scott?
Thank you, Lloyd. Good afternoon. You know, it's a real pleasure to be here, especially considering the year that all of us have had so far. I think all of us would like to hit the redo button on 2020. But as Lloyd stated, my name is Scott Horton. I'm with Wells Fargo's corporate and investment banking team here in Colorado. And on behalf of all of us here at Wells Fargo, it's an honor and extreme joy to be here with you today to celebrate this grand opening of this important project, especially given all the delays and obstacles that this project had to overcome that many of you may not know about. But I know Pat is very familiar with these, and Ken. So kudos to you guys for persevering and getting us where we are today. But you know, given all the obstacles and especially the pandemic, you know, I think the fact that all of us were brave enough to venture out here during a pandemic shows exactly how important this project is to this community, and it's one of many examples. And for those of you that have heard me speak before, you've heard me mention about how Wells Fargo is consistently ranked number 1 or 2 in terms of total dollars provided towards the creation and preservation of affordable housing across the country, not only in Colorado. And while that's true, I know that all of us sitting or standing here in masks don't want to hear a banker ramble on about Wells Fargo. So I'm just going to skip all that stuff and get to the good stuff about this project and affordable housing. You know, many of us here today were given a hand up at some point in our lives, whether it was from a parent, family, friends, or support system. And most of us were able to attend higher education and get good jobs. And even we think that our rent or mortgage is expensive relative to what we make. Now think about an individual that may not have had the same support system, or maybe they did and they just fell in hard times. As we've all seen, it is very easy to do these days. You know, this year is a good example of that. How many people do you all know? I'm sure you can think of someone that's either lost a job or had a significant salary cut due to the pandemic. And last time I checked, I didn't have pandemic family savings plan built in my family budget. So I know that this came without any of us knowing. And these people that have lost their jobs or had salary cuts or have fallen on hard times at no fault of their own. So it's important for us to realize that, you know, where we are today, we had help getting here. And the folks living in affordable housing simply just need a hand up sometimes. You know, people not in my profession ask me all the time, what is affordable housing? Well, that's a broad question and it has many different answers. But to give you an idea, an average market rate apartment, 1-bedroom unit in this community, in this area, goes for roughly $1,600 a month or more. A 2-bedroom apartment goes for $2,000 to $2,400 a month or more. That equates to about 50% of someone's annual income if they earn at least $60,000 or more. So you can imagine that impacts a lot of people. Someone paying over 30% of their income is considered to be cost burden. Well, we have almost half of the population in Colorado that fits into that category. So obviously, not all of us can afford affordable housing. We heard Britta talk about the numbers of affordable housing units under construction, and that's great news, but we simply need to do more. We have too many folks on wait lists that just can't find affordable housing. So we will continue to invest in as many projects as we can and finance as many projects as we can, and we just need to find a way to do more affordable housing in Colorado. A simple hiccup as a flat tire or a medical bill or something unforeseen can cause someone to have to make a tough decision between paying rent, going to the doctor, or ending up on the street. It's not fair, and it's a decision that none of us want to have to make. So, to the people that just say, their solution is, why don't they just move out to the middle of nowhere where it's affordable? And I always respond, well, who's going to mow your lawn or clean your house or serve your drinks or nanny your kids or teach your kids or construct your buildings or homes? There's so many professions. And it's funny, if everyone moved out to the middle of nowhere, it would no longer be the middle of nowhere and it would be expensive. So, you know, to those people, that doesn't solve the problem. So we need more quality affordable housing. Look, affordable housing benefits all of us. It benefits the entire community, not just those that live in it. And the sooner that we all realize that, the better off we'll all be. Projects like this don't happen overnight. And they don't happen without a talented group of visionaries, developers, architects, contractors, investors coming together to achieve a common goal. So at this time, I would like to thank the following groups and individuals. First, thank you to the city, Britta, and the state, and the Division of Housing. Allison, I know you're here. Thank you for your acceptance of this project and your financial support for this project. I'd also like to thank CHAFA. Some of you may not know exactly how these projects work or get financed or built, but without CHAFA allocating the tax credits for this project, none of us would be here. This project simply wouldn't exist. So CHAFA, thank you for allocating the tax credits for this important project and for your financial support. Also, obviously, Pat. I know I saw you earlier, but thank you, Pat, and the Atlantis Community Foundation. I mentioned earlier the delays and obstacles you guys had to overcome to get to where we are today. So thank you very much for persevering and overcoming a lot of adversity. I'd like to thank the consultants. I saw Ken earlier. Thank you, Ken and Dan Morgan. Mary, I don't know if Mary's here, but thank you for your hard work and contributions to the effort. Finally, I'd like to thank the GC, Pinkard, and the architects. You know, we can put it all on paper, but if you guys don't build the building, then it doesn't work. So thank you for your hard work in getting it done. Without everyone's hard work and teamwork, projects like this don't happen. And sincerely, on behalf of Wells Fargo, thank you for letting us be a part of this.
Before I bring up, what's going on?
Excuse me, Lloyd. I'd like to say a few words before we proceed. I've been asked to make a presentation, a short presentation. For those of you that don't know Lloyd, he's a very driven person, and this building is a tribute to his passion and his drive and his vision. And frankly, I'm not so sure this building would have been built without Lloyd Lewis. So I'd like to present this to you as the board chair of Atlantis Foundation.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I presume the check is in the mail. Before I bring up Candy to close our program, I want to call out a few special people who also joined us today. First of all, Barry Rosenberg, who over 40 years ago worked with the Presbyterian minister Wade Blank and started causing hell all across the city and beyond, and started to make things happen for people. Good trouble, yes, good trouble. I also want to acknowledge the LG's policy advisor, Josh Winkler, who is a real asset to our community. And thank you for hiring him, because he was my co-chair at CCDC, and as a younger and smarter person, it just takes off a lot of the pressure to have more for you. So thanks so much. And then finally, I want to thank our cheerleader, Dawn Russell, who is the vice chair of the ACI. And she has done so much for our community. And besides being a cheerleader, I just want to give you a little warning. If you ever get on the other side of her, she'll be outside your office the next morning. So just take that in good trouble. And without further ado, I want to invite, Candy is the executive director of Atlantis Community, Inc. She joined in 2016. In addition to being the ED for ACI, she serves on the board of the National Council on Independent Living, and prior to ACI, worked in various roles in our community with Accent on Independence, Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing, Colorado Department of Human Services, and Developmental Pathways, a real asset to ACI in our community. Come on up, Candy.
Thank you. So, congratulations, Lloyd. So first, I would just like to thank everyone for coming. I appreciate everyone coming and gathering. It's been a long time since I've been around so many people. This is great. I'm really excited about this building. It's been a long time coming. We have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I mean that literally. There has been blood, there has been sweat, and there has been a whole lot of tears. We've had a lot of volunteers help us. Certainly ACF and Pat have been wonderful. So if everyone can just take a moment and applaud everyone and everything that has gone into this building. So the great thing about wrapping up is that most people have already said everything I was going to say, so it makes it a little easier. I appreciate all of the kind words everyone said about Atlantis. We are really proud of how far we've come in 45 years and the next chapter that this building allows us to enter. So I'll just take a few moments to highlight some of the things you'll see when you go through our space. We were really intentional with everything we put in there. So you'll go through and you'll see that all of the desks raise and lower. So we've made it accommodated for everyone who works and visits Atlantis. Everything from making sure there were large spaces between rows of workspaces so people could move around freely when they use wheelchairs. We have an accessible an accessible kitchen for cooking, whether it's for teaching independent living skills or when we have our large parties, which we try to do several times a year outside of pandemics. Our museum, you'll see as you go through it, we incorporated a lot of the elements that we had in our previous building, and we tried to bring in new elements. It's not done, and so I really want to stress that. You'll go through and you'll see a lot of blank walls. Trust me, in another 6 months, it'll be complete, and I hope everyone comes back. I do want to talk about the bench here. This was a bench, it was hand carved by a woman by the name of Dawn Record. She is a friend and neighbor of Molly Blank before she passed away. It's sandstone, and she said it took her over 400 hours to carve it. On one side depicts the Gang of 19, and on the other side it depicts the smashing of sidewalks to make curb cuts. It's a tremendous piece of art, and we're really grateful that she spent her time and energy for us. As you go through the building, you'll see some other art that was created specifically for our space. So I hope everyone takes a moment, walks through it, really enjoys it, and takes an opportunity to absorb everything that we try to invest. One of the things that you will see once everything's done, we will have all of our panels back up on the walls. We'll still have t-shirts on the walls. We are working with activists from around the country to incorporate other elements, including showing how we, our community, including people of color, have contributed to our disability rights movement. And there'll be room to expand. So our previous building stopped at 2007, and now we can just keep on growing and being activists and do a great job with it. So a couple things when you're going through, we tried to make it as interactive as possible. When you first walk in, there is a conference room, and we want to name it in honor of Wade Blank. So we've set out a little table. We'd love to hear your suggestions on how we can name that conference room. So please fill out. You can have as many suggestions as Mary Ann already has her suggestion ready to go. There's also, thanks to Purple Concepts and our very own Josh Winkler, there are little fidget spinners. I've hidden 5 of them around the office. They are not hard to find, so if you find one, if you could, and then you find a second, if you could leave the second one there for the next person to find. So thank you, Josh. So a couple stories I'd just like to share. In 1984, there was a protest in Denver around McDonald's and the fact that McDonald's wasn't accessible. You couldn't get into the front door. You couldn't. You want to tell about McDonald's? Yeah. if you'll allow Mary Ann to come up.
Okay, Wade Blank and I, we went over to, Pennsylvania and Colfax, and we could not get in the front door at all. And we blocked it, and some people got arrested, and Katie and I were doing the bathrooms, and somebody was trying to get in there, and they could not get in, and it was not accessible at all.
Yes. And it was successful. And that protest actually led to several protests around the country for McDonald's. And then the other story, are you sure?
Go ahead.
I was giving Dawn an opportunity to share it. So there was a meeting between ADAPT and some bureaucrats, and I say that lovingly as a recovering bureaucrat myself. And the meeting wasn't going quite so well. And so as part of the meeting and niceties, they brought a plate of cookies to try and, I guess, soothe things over. And ADAPT, and I quote, proclaimed, "We don't want your effing cookies." So, that is like the 30-second version of a really great and long story. So when you go through the building, there will be some gift bags on the right. In the gift bags, you'll find little bags of cookies, so we are giving you cookies, even though we don't want yours. And then the other part of the McDonald's story is, since that happened, when you go on ADAPT Action, you get cold hamburgers while you're sitting outside protesting. So in the bag, you'll find a $5 gift certificate that you can go and enjoy a cold hamburger. So with that, in true ADAPT fashion and Atlantis fashion, we don't have your standard traditional ribbon cutting. We have handcuffed the doors closed, and then we're going to use bolt cutters to open them up. And Don Russell is going to help me cut them off. And they're beautiful red, brand new. Come on over. All right, ready? Yay.